my dearest friends in a Pup in the Life. Today, a later Pup in the Life, because we are just back from Milan. Yes, you guessed it, where mom always works. I am not actually back. I was at home waiting for her. But as it always happens, mom was in Milan doing lots of things. And crazily enough, something pretty interesting happened because it was the topic of today's podcast, as mom just wrote a post about it on LinkedIn. And it was very, it's kind of weird that she actually wrote a post about it. And then just something just happened exactly around the same thing. And it was cool. I mean, it was it was very cool because actually mom got real proof of what she was actually thinking and expecting and whatnot. So basically, long story short, mom had a couple of appointments today in Milan, especially one with a friend who's a lawyer and is a very good networker. And so they met, and basically this guy just turns out with 3 or 4 or 5 or maybe even 6 very, very useful contacts for mom, just like this, talking about this in general. Okay, I'm going to introduce you to this. I'm going to present you to that. Let's talk about your project to this another person and whatnot. Now, was mom expecting this thing to happen? No. Still, it happened because this guy is a real networker. Now, what does a real networker mean and why you should be one? So sometimes we think about networking, we talk about networking quite a lot on this podcast because, we care about it. We tend to think about networking as something that makes sense to do it now because you need it now. For example, you're fundraising, you need money now, and you are going to network. Well, it's not actually always the case, because sometimes you just find yourself talking with, for example, potential investors that are not your most interesting investors for the time being. And so if they are not your most interesting investors for the time being, what are you going to do? You're going to put them, listen to me. You're going to do it, and you're going to, put them into a thread of emails where you keep them updated on your progress and let them know how you're doing. And so if this is the way in which you treat your investors, you will soon find yourself in a way in which you will have lots and lots of contacts to take it from when you actually need that type of money that they can provide you. But there is another way which is still even more different to deal with potential networking opportunities, which is when you meet somebody that doesn't fit your investment needs or money needs now. They don't fit your client, target client. They even don't fit a potential hire for you if you're on a company or even are in a company. And even they don't look as a potential mate. Like, you don't like them, in a more affectionate way, let's say. What are you gonna do? You're gonna try and be helpful to them. You're gonna try and put them in contact with somebody that might be helpful for them. You ask them, how can I help you? How can I be helpful for you? And people are gonna remind themselves, they're gonna know that you were actually caring for them and you're gonna be useful for them. So this always goes to networking best practices. So it's a bit different than what we were about to say in this podcast. But still, it's something that's worth taking into account and taking into consideration. But getting back to the topic of the podcast, so what networking is not and what it actually is, it's actually getting to know another person and try to reduce the gap between what we know and what we don't know, and take into our minds, our souls, our brains, whatever, information, and create relationships that one day that potentially could be useful for us. And sometimes it's gonna take longer than 10 years. Trust me, something happened to mom lately. It took several years. Almost, well, not 10, but 9. Like, it's a long, long time. Let me say this again. Knowing, doing, networking is not looking for something from somebody now. It's getting to know. Now, it can happen, but it's not obvious. It is trying and find a way to reduce the gap between what we know and what we don't know, and take inside of ourselves pieces of information that are useful and that can help us out create relationships that one day could potentially be useful for us. Sometimes it takes longer than 10 years. I'm sorry, but this is what happens. And so, who wins in networking? The people who win in networking are the people that are able to wait that moment, that type of moment, and then to be able, especially at a certain moment in time, to really be able to find the perfect, let's say, moment to just take these contacts for either you or other people out of your contact box, CRM, whatever you want to consider. So I guess that this thing is quite useful, especially because most of you don't really have any idea how many people you know and how much they can potentially be useful for you. So I would say that you now go, try and experiment with network, you try and understand really what you can do about it and how it can be useful for you and how you can make it work at the best for you. I'm sure you can, I'm sure you will. Trust me, it's gonna take fucking time. It's gonna take fucking time. I'm gonna say it once again, it probably can potentially even take 10 years. So don't deem somebody as unuseful now and try and find a way to really connect with them and keep them reminded that you exist and you can potentially be useful even for them. Trust me, it works. It's proven. I will send you kisses, hugs, a bit of barks, and nice networking to all of you. Bye!